Hello, friends. So today I am here to talk about OT school. So if you're new here, you may not know, but I am currently in I guess going on my third year of OT school, second year. I've lost track. But I am currently in OT school and I have about a year left. I am in a flex program, so my program is 3 years instead of two and a half. So it's a little bit longer, which is why I'm lost as to what year I'm on. So I am going to talk a little bit about how I got accepted into the OT schools I applied for. So I applied to OT school, back in 2017, 2018. Wow, it seems like an eternity ago. So I started applying like you usually do, which is I think it opens summer, fall. Like I said, it feels like it was an eternity ago. So I applied to 4 schools, and I chose how I applied to those 4 schools because I lived in Arizona at the time, and then my parents lived in Florida. And so I was about to get married. I got married in January of 2018. So I had been planning my wedding, and we had a lot of student loan debt from our previous degrees. And so we had talked about how we might consider the idea of moving to Florida and living with my parents here so that we could save money and pay off some of those student loans while I was in school. So and we thought a flex program would be the best for that, because I could still work some, and also I was kind of a late student, you could say, because I had already done a master's degree, and I was now going to be doing a second master's degree. So when I started my program, I was 25, and then I turned 26 in the spring. So I applied to those 4 programs. I applied to 2 in Arizona and then 2 in Florida. So both of the programs that I applied to in Florida were flex programs. I, again, chose that because of our situation, and that was just kind of our choice. And then I also applied to 2 traditional programs in Arizona because there's no flex programs there, and that's just what I chose to do. So I will tell you the programs I applied to in Arizona. I applied to Midwestern and AT Still. Midwestern, I believe both of those schools actually have campuses elsewhere. I know obviously Midwestern has a campus in the Midwest, but I believe the AT Still also has a campus elsewhere. I just can't remember off the top of my head where it is. So I applied to all of these schools around the same time, and my experience was that I got waitlisted at, I believe, both of the Arizona schools, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, I got waitlisted at Midwestern, and then I got an interview with Midwestern in April, I want to say, and I had kind of given up on a Midwestern and thinking that it wasn't going to happen. And then I ended up getting accepted pretty rapidly after that first interview. So I had a great experience with Midwestern. If I could have gone, if we wouldn't have wanted to make the best financial decision for us, then I would have 100% gone Midwestern. I still think about it sometimes, and I'm like, just because I had worked near the area of Midwestern before, and I just it was kind of a dream school for me. So, yeah, and I loved Arizona, so I was really for Midwestern, but we ended up just making this decision for what was better for us financially. But anyway, besides the point. So, and then from AT Still, I was accepted, and then from both of the schools here in Florida, I was accepted. So now to get on to, sorry, I just wanted to give, I know that was a little bit long, but I wanted to give a bit of background as to where I'm coming from and what my experience was. So I'm going to give you my top 5 tips on how to go about your process and how to get accepted into OT school. I know every process is going to be different, and there's part of it I think in this process is just luck, honestly, of just like where you fall on that stack of applicants, because your application could be, number 485 in the stack, and have the same qualifications as someone who's, number 10 on the stack. And by the time they've gone 2 years, they've already given away all their seats. But with that being said, don't get discouraged if you get waitlisted, because, everyone is applying to multiple schools for the most part. So a lot of people will even pay their deposit and then decide, just to hold their seat, and then decide at the last minute to go with a different school. So really don't get discouraged. So going into the tips, my first tip is to really do some good research. So for OT school, as you may know, if you've started looking into it, there is different requirements for just about every school. There are some requirements that are kind of just across the board, like usually anatomy and physiology, like abnormal psych. There's a couple of classes that are pretty common for every school, but there are a lot of variations and a lot of schools that will only take certain types of classes. So you really, really, really need to do your research. And this is going to be impossible if you don't have a general idea of where you want to go, what state you want to be in, that sort of thing. So start off with that. And then I think you can look at this on the OT central application, but you can look at the requirements and the schools and stuff. But I think AOTA also has their list of schools, and then accredited schools, and that way you can kind of go through and see okay, well, I want to be in Georgia, and then see what schools are under Georgia and do some more research that way. But really do a ton of research and read the fine print. For example, for me, I had already had a master's degree, so I didn't have to take the GRE for some of the schools that I applied to. I believe the school that I'm in right now, I believe I was able to, they required a GRE, but because I had already gotten a master's degree, I didn't have to do that. So just little things like that. There's just a lot of fine print and things to read through. I know it's tedious, and I know it takes forever, and it can be frustrating, but it's incredibly important so that you don't end up, weeks, months, whatever down the road, and realize that, oh my gosh, I don't have this requirement, and I can't make it work now. So do that before you put also the application money down. So, and then with that, going along with that, my next tip is to make lists of all those things. So keep a Google Doc, keep an Excel spreadsheet, keep just a written list, whatever it is that works best for you, but keep track of those things, because again, it's really easy to just forget or start mixing up schools because there's so many of them. So write it down somewhere. My next tip is to get recommendations from a variety of people. So for me, I had it's so hard for me to remember, but I had 3 different jobs at this point from when I had graduated from my second master's. So what I did is that I tried to just kind of spread it out, try to get some, professional recommendations, some academic recommendations, some recommendation from someone you shadowed, just really try to diversify it. Again, this is a hard one because schools will also have requirements of different people that can recommend you. So also take a look at that because it may be different. One may want 2 OTs and a professional one. One may want, an OT, an academic, and then a professional, or, so it can vary. So also look at those so that you're not wasting time on asking for people for recommendations and then not needing them, or needing more recommendations, etc. So my next thing, sorry, I'm trying to look at my list right here, is to diversify your application. So I know that we can get really stuck on grades and grades and grades and grades, but really try to do a variety of things. For example, one of the things that I feel really did well for me on my interview at Midwestern was that I had volunteered with an organization that did grocery delivery for homebound seniors. And I was talking to the person that interviewed me about that, and that, you know, brought up all these other conversations. And then we started talking about some of my interests, and then we started talking about how I baked wedding cakes and things. And then she really started going into, you know, how I could use baking and OT and all of those things. And I didn't have all the right answers, but we were able to talk about more than just like, okay, I see that you got an A in, you know, in anatomy and physiology. And so I really think that it helps them remember you as someone more than just a piece of paper who got all A's. So really focus on other aspects of your life that aren't just school, and that'll really make you stand out and make you seem like a real person. And I think that's really important, is that it's not all about your grades. So, and then my last tip is to not over apply. I know that it can be really tempting to just apply to like 20 schools and just like go all out. But one, like I said, the process is expensive. Each of those applications is going to cost you a lot of money. Keeping track of all of these different things and making sure you're meeting the requirements for each of them is difficult. You know, supplemental essays take time to write and write properly. Getting, you know, the proper recommendations for each school. And then if you get interviews, you're not going to be able to fly all across the country to, you know, 10 different states to go do interviews. So then you're going to feel like you're going to have to cut it down already there. And so you kind of just wasted money on this whole process. And so I just think it's best to, yes, you definitely want to apply to more than, you know, 1 or 2 schools. I think it's important to apply to a couple. But I think that it can be kind of dangerous to get into that mindset of, I just need to apply to lots and lots of schools. So I think I would say that probably the like 4 to 8 range is a pretty, like, I think pushing it to more than 8 is a lot. But I think like 4 to 5 schools is a pretty sweet spot to be at. But if you really, really feel like you want to apply to more, then you can. But I just think that you need to be really careful of not going too overboard. So those are my tips for getting into OT school and the whole application process. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions down below, or if you have any other recommendations for anyone applying to OT school. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.